Welcome to the Creative AI Show. What do we have this week, Brian?
Hey Rosh, happy to be here as always. We are two creative guys talking AI, and I've got two pretty divergent topics here today. First of all, Veo 3 has felt like it's been kind of untouchable for the past few weeks. It's been kind of, the new king of the hill, but I started to see a few cracks in the armor. I had quite
Hmm.
a few Veo 3 fails. And I want to talk about that. I did a video a couple days ago showing that the Veo 3 frames is now available. So it's that image to
Yep.
video. It's available in Flow. So that's where I had a few fails. And then also, I've got a pretty big meeting later this week, and I realized I've been leaning on like specifically Chat GPT to really help me kind of get the framework of this meeting together. To
Sure.
where I'm looking for baseline stats and stuff, and market rates and different things like that. But it's just helping me kind of form my arguments, if you will. So I'm excited to deep dive about that because it's a way that creatives in their own business can kind of justify their business and what they're doing by using AI.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've going on. What about you, my friend?
Well, not a few number of days ago, I text you and said, "Hey, there's a disturbance in the force here,
Yeah, yeah.
within
GPT's
ChatGPT. So
down.
something
Yeah.
should be coming out," and it
Hmm.
did.
Yep.
And OpenAI birthed O3 Pro,
Okay.
and so I want to talk about that, what that's
Great.
all about. And then I do want to talk about the VO3 effect that we've seen these last few weeks in terms of what
Ooh.
we see in social media, what we
Yep.
see just in general online and what's happening. And there's something core, no matter whether it's created by AI or just you and I with our cell phones, it doesn't. There's one thing that's important, something we've talked about. So it won't be
Okay.
a surprise to many people, but I still think that the point needs to get across.
Very good. Well, I'm excited to talk about that. I've got a lot of things to say about Veo 3, so it's pretty exciting. Well, that being said, then I'll jump into the Veo 3 frames. So, the using Veo 3, I primarily used it in Gemini 2.5 for a while to do
Mhm.
some of my video creation or as prompt to video. And then I discovered using Flow, which is its own fantastic, platform for
Yeah.
generating these videos and generating stories. And, if you have the Google Ultra subscription, which is pretty pricey, but you can, use all sorts of different things where you have frames and then you add elements to it. And then you can really do a good job keeping a consistent character, putting that character into different scenes, and then actually having a video editor in Flow to go and organize these scenes. Or there's even a button, to extend the scenes. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in Google
Yeah.
Flow. But I was just cracking the egg here, and I just did some basic Google frames for a video I put up a couple days ago. And it was my first time, Rosh, where I saw some legit Veo 3 fails.
Hmm. What
And
kind of
and what
fails? What's
I mean, all
going
right.
on?
So yeah, I mean, ones where the first of all, where the frame, the animation just didn't look good. There was a lot of distortions. There was a lot of funny things that happened. And then there was one where it recognized the intro frame. It showed it for a half a second, and then it went to like a stock footage of pancakes getting syrup poured on them when it was
Oh,
supposed to be like a family. So it completely failed. And out of its 8-second prompt, it showed that for like 3 or 4 seconds, and then it took that family from the original photo and put them around a dinner table, and it added an extra character. It didn't look
didn't know
real.
where
Yeah,
did they come from?
right. It's like, was this the nanny? Is this a polygamous relationship? What's going on here? So there's a lot of question marks I had. So I was ready to label that a fail. I was upset that Veo 3 Fast was not available as an option to do the frames.
Yeah.
So I tried to click Veo 3 Fast and went, uploaded my image, put in the prompt, and it outputted something, but it actually reverted it back to Veo 2 fast. So
Oh,
in that comparison video, I also got an extra little comparison of Veo 2 fast versus Veo 3 quality.
okay.
And let me tell you, that was, just to start off and say just how far Veo has come
Oh,
from,
yeah.
Veo 2 to Veo 3 was, as we know, a huge, huge step forward.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's still the king right now. It's the best that we've got in terms of prompt to video.
Hmm.
But when we're talking about frames and we're starting with an image and then we're animating that image, and I think Kling is still the king.
Yeah.
I did a video yesterday for Father's Day where I tried to do a couple different images, super realistic. Got them from Rev, which is my favorite, hyper
Yep.
realistic image
Same.
place. And I did our simple bring to life, and then I did a full on prompt, and Kling killed it. It was so good, every
Yeah.
single one of them. I mean, outside of like one of them, the kids are getting read a story, and their fingers kind of like multiply and do funny things together like
Which
this.
is not good.
But yeah, it's not good. But again, it wasn't the primary source of where your eye goes on these videos.
Okay.
It was, so like the main character, if you will, animated spotlessly. I could not find an issue. Whereas with Veo 3, even the ones that were good, the primary character, say if the camera was moving a little bit or that person moved in depth of field with someone else, when
Right.
they showed up next to them, you'd see minor face distortions and things that would
Mm.
certainly be distracting. And so Veo 3 was kind of, struggling with that original uploaded image to keep it consistent and prevent those types of hallucinations or distortions on it. But there were parts that were really good where I wanted a handshake at the end, and there were two characters, one sitting down, one standing up, and they went to go shake hands, and their hands remained perfect, and like
Okay.
the eye contact that was made. So it was, I'd say, like a B plus altogether for how it did. Whereas say Kling yesterday was an A minus to an A
Okay.
all day. So,
Good.
it's getting there. Maybe if I do the Ultra subscription and I've got a few more credits and can play with the prompting, maybe I'll be able to fix that. But that's my other struggle here is that I'm on the pro level, $20 a month, and
Yeah.
it's 1,000 credits. Each output from Google Veo 3 quality is 100 credits.
Yeah. Right.
Man, that eats up my credits real fast. And speaking of fast, that's only 20 credits right now.
Yeah.
If I had the option of using fast Veo 3 for these frames ones, maybe I could also find a win there. But
Mm.
right now, I mean, I think they're just rolling it out. It's just getting there, and it's not the best. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. I mean, I have not played with it too much. I think for the most part, I remember seeing that, but I think I pretty much was doing text to video straight up
Okay.
for my
Yeah.
comparisons. I haven't done a comparison in a little while. I think you've done the most recent comparisons, and they've been
Mhm.
great. So, yeah, I think each one's going to have its own strength. I really appreciate you kind of pointing out that Kling still has some strong qualities, and that it
Yes,
can
very
do some
much.
good work for you because we've been Kling has been a strong player all along, and I don't think they're going to go down without a big old swing at Google. They're going to be a
Yes.
player for a while, I think.
Well, and they added sound to Kling 2.1, so
Yeah,
that was a nice bonus. So I think they saw that Google did this. They probably already had it in the works, and they were just like, "Nope, let's give it." We
yeah.
can't be beaten down there, so they want to add that
It's
in.
not as
But
good. It's not as
it's
good, but it's
exactly.
okay. Yeah.
And like for example, one, I had a family at the end, and they clearly were not an Asian family, but it decided to add dialogue. And again, it's formed off the DeepSeek engine, which is originated in
Yeah.
China, and they were definitely speaking some version of an Asian language.
Ah,
So I was like, all right, there's some disconnect there. I mean, it's good, but it's not great, but it's trying, it's doing
yeah.
its thing.
Yeah.
So,
Very good.
yep, it's been pretty fun. So, all right, well, throw back to you. I know, like you said, there was the disturbance in the force
Disturbance in
there
the
with
force. Whenever
with
you're having
ChatGPT.
trouble with Chat GPT, once in a while, maybe something fails, but when it continuously is failing, that means they're updating something.
Right.
For some strange reason, these really smart people can't update their system without
Yeah.
bringing it down at the same time. So you get all these alerts. Oh, it's over.
The
ChatGPT, OpenAI, it's all down.
downdetector.com is off the, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
was fortunate I was at the zoo that day that it went down. So I
yeah,
was actually enjoying real world without any robots. So
very
it didn't
nice.
miss a blip for me.
Very
But,
nice.
but what's going on with O3 Pro?
So O3 Pro it's for the $200 level.
Okay.
And it really, I think, we had these reports coming out from Apple about how AI really doesn't think and all that, the thinking models. And so the next day, OpenAI said, "Oh, really? Here you go.
That's what you think.
That's what you think." And I mean, who knows if that's if it really is the answer. But this thing, you're not going to have a conversation with it.
Okay.
You are going to put in information, and it's not like deep research per se, but it does take about 15 to 30 minutes to answer.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it
Okay.
really is looking at it at multiple angles, your question, your thought, and it presents it very nicely. So there's a, I guess, a deep research
Yeah.
vibe to it, but it's more of a just thinking about it all angles versus going out into the world and just doing all the research and coming back. Like your
Right.
assistant, this is really, I'm going to stay here. If I have to go on the web, I will, but more likely I'm going to get some information. I'm going to look at it all angles and then give you a really good
Yeah.
way to answer, approach, analyze, think about what it is that you asked.
It's like having a conversation with a really smart person, and they take a little longer breaks than you're used to before they respond because they're
Right.
truly articulating their response, right?
Exactly. And this one's well, some of them I was working with a friend who had some really important questions for his life, very specifically. He said, "Hey, would you like the smartest AI in the world? How about that?" And I told him it's going to take about a half hour. It took about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So it really depends on the question that you have.
Right.
But it really is good. And I am, and of course, I'm looking at, I think I'm going to downgrade to the $29 a month or $20 a month one.
Of course. Yeah.
And then, I'm one day away. I think it was just one day before I would have to downgrade before they charge me. And, of course, Sam, he's keeping an eye on my account, making
I
sure
imagine
that
he's
I'm
listening to this show.
satisfied,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
making sure I'm getting, little cake and a little circus entertainment to keep me
Keeping you on
going.
the hook, buddy.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So,
well.
all
Hey,
right.
at least it's justifying your 200 a month. I'm still not there yet, but hey,
I don't really
listen,
know if
hey.
anybody should be there, but there
Yeah.
are some foolish people out there. So,
Well,
well, my
message
name's
to all the
Brian.
sponsors out there, hey,
There you go.
bankroll it for us so we can, all have it. But yeah. So, but yeah, that's great. Did you anything else you wanted to hop
No, I
on with
think
that?
that's pretty much
Okay,
it.
cool.
What do you got next?
Well, I'm going to talk about Chat GPT a bit here. So, like I alluded in the opening here, I've got a pretty big meeting coming up this week, and I want to just in the totality of the services that I've provided a client,
Yeah.
I want to provide some context to this client of exactly what deal they're getting based on the quantity we're spending each month, where the baseline statistics should be compared to what we've been able to produce in terms of,
Mhm.
reach, impressions, clicks, cost per click, stuff like
Right.
that. And then the actual cost for these individual services, whether that be somebody who is actually our graphic artist, or it's the person who does the posting, or the
Yeah.
person who does the boosting and the reports in the back end. All of these different services have a general cost, and if you were to piecemeal it, hey, here is what you would be spending versus here's what we charge you each month. So on the low end, you're saving 20%, but on the high end of the spectrum, you're saving 100%.
Yeah. Right.
And just to kind of reframe the relationship and just kind of say, hey, no, this is truly what we're doing for you month in, month out. And, we're not promising all these, conversions in the world, but reach, impressions, and website traffic are the things that I can truly promise. And
Yeah.
here's where we are against industry benchmarks. And and it helps structure the arguments into like a nice one pager, put it all together, nice and clean and formatted. So realistically, this is probably about 3 to 4 hours worth of what my work would have been before AI,
Yeah.
brought down into about 20 minutes to a half an hour.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm working at 8x speed here, pretty much being more efficient by using this AI. So it's saving the time researching, it's putting the presentation together for me.
Mhm.
I actually had to do a deep research on what social media companies can do in this specific industry as well,
Oh, okay.
because industry, the social media efforts are going to be way different per industry.
Yeah.
So
Right.
say for example, one of my clients who's been very successful lately, they do a men's health clinic, so
Mhm.
testosterone testing and stuff like that to be able to provide just as men get older, stuff like that. And they were doing a video, my client did a video about weight loss injections, so like those Ozempic,
Yeah.
GLP-1, those types of
Sure.
things. And I was in there filming his next round of videos, and literally the guy at the front counter is like, "Oh, these are the videos that I just saw about this. It's why I'm here today." So it's like, all right, that's one type of industry where you are creating the problem within somebody. Whereas, say, a different type of industry, they need to know about your services when that problem
Yeah.
arises. So it's a different form of how you handle social media as to whether or not you're talking about these specific services or you're just making a massive amount of people aware of this brand and this service and this company because they need to know who you are when they need you.
Right.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
framing that with a deep research of, hey, these are the ways that social media companies can impact your bottom line. This is what's important. This is what they can do. All of that together, I think, made me put together so much more of a confident argument to go in and be ready to, defend the services that we provide, as
Right.
opposed to kind of flying blindly like we would before, where, maybe I'm doing a Google search and I'm looking through, 10 or 15 websites about the latest algorithms that we're applying or different things like that. Whereas, this is having your research partner, your buddy, or as
Yeah.
my son likes to call it, your pocket friend. And, using this, insanely valuable resource to help my creative company.
Yeah.
So, kind of back to the old name of our show, the Creative Entrepreneur Show.
Yeah.
This message is more towards the entrepreneur
Right.
who's, working on building their business and they want to find ways to use AI to be better, to be more efficient, to be more confident, and to secure longer term contracts.
Sure. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
excellent. I mean, I use it all the time that way,
Mhm.
just because sometimes I can know what's in my head, but
Right.
not really present it well to the client
Right.
or get that information across as often or as so I'm looking for new ways and I'm engaging AI that way too, in
Right.
new ways and better ways to keep my clients informed. I mean, not that
Yes.
my clients are uninformed, but there are always better ways. And if we
Right.
can put some good practices in place to improve the relationship, even if it's just the little small things, and also again looking and evaluating your company, evaluating your processes, evaluating everything.
Yeah.
This is another pair of eyes in a sense,
Yeah.
another way, like you said, your pocket friend who can
Mhm.
help you out at any time. And so, yes, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think it's
And, yeah, different clients have different ways of perceiving the same information. So
that's
sometimes
true.
it's all in how you tell the story. And, if you're again and again in your own brain thought or your own, way of putting structuring an argument, if you're not hitting home with that client and not getting your argument across, it's
Yeah,
time to
right.
go back to the drawing board and get help. And that's where this AI tool comes in.
Yeah, kind of describing the client, their characteristics, what they're like. Now structure something, for them. Yeah, that's a good point. That's an excellent point.
Precisely. So, all right, cool. Throw back your way for your final topic here on the Veo 3 effect. We, as much as
Yeah,
we love
so
Veo,
you did Veil first, and I did Chat GPT. Now, you're Chat
we're just
GPT.
making a
Now,
Veo sandwich here, buddy,
yeah,
or a Chat
exactly.
GPT sandwich, I guess. The
Something
sandwich
like
is
that.
defined
Yeah.
by what's in the middle of it, right?
But you may have seen the Yeti videos. You may have seen the Star Wars Stormtrooper videos. I don't know if you have. It's been
Hmm.
all the popular thing on TikTok, created with obviously these tools in the last few weeks have been everywhere, and they've been entertaining. They're going to continue to grow, and some will survive. But the main thing in all of this is story, and
Yeah.
it won't matter how it's created as long as you have good story. AI for AI's sake will not work in the future. I mean, it's a little bit of a novelty right now. It certainly is,
Hmm.
it's a good novelty. I mean, there's some stuff we're seeing. There's we talked about, I think, last week even. Where do we talk about the historical ones? Was it
Yes.
last
Yeah.
week?
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
It's
we
like
talked about
interviews
the
from the
historical.
1500s, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't get the plague
That
today.
so, going through, history and kind of making people who were just in black and white words in your head, and now they're talking to you in some way.
Right.
It's fun, but and honestly, historical stories I think is a good place to start,
Hmm.
but to move forward, I think you're going to have to still come up with something new.
Right.
And right now, I think AI is still, where we are now to the past. It's still the human. I don't know how long this is going to last. I
Hmm.
don't know how long it will be before AI is more creative than the human mind. It may be a
In some
year,
ways,
it
it
may
probably
be
already
10
is.
years.
And, images that it's generating and different styles that it's blending and putting together. I mean, it's sometimes, I think, getting outputs far beyond than what most humans could think of. So, Yeah,
Okay. All right. So we're getting somewhere.
we're
So,
getting
and
there. Yeah.
again, creativity being the combination, combining two different
Mhm.
things into something new. And I guess AI can do that. So
Yes.
it's going to be interesting. But I want to just keep pounding on the whole idea. If you are considering using AI creatively, you really are going to have a foundational story. And don't think about AI for AI's sake. Is AI the best way to tell your story? Or is
Hmm.
there another way to go about it? Or is it a combination of
Right.
these things? And that's where we are. And I'm gonna probably talk about this a number of times moving forward, and as I have in the past, because I think sometimes it's the shiny object that that we get excited about and not realize, look, ultimately the tool has a job, and that
Yeah.
job is to inform, educate, or entertain us, and it has to do it well. And, you know, we've had a lot of conversations. It's going to need somebody to ask the question.
Right.
AI can't just start creating stuff I mean, it can create a billion things, but if it's not satisfying the question, it can't just create for creation's sake. There needs to be something behind it.
Right.
We need to solve a problem, create this or that. You got
Right.
something?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you need to have an eye for the output too. You need to
Yeah.
know what good photography or good videography or good anything looks like in order to accept the output.
Yeah.
So, the creatives are still going to matter, but it's just going to be at what level now. You don't have to sit there and actually frame out the scene step by step. It can generate, but then you can direct it. Like one of the main things I see is I know, like in my house, we watch Dateline a good amount.
Yeah.
So Dateline's a good show where it's like interview based, and then they're telling a story, and they interject the B-roll footage a lot in Dateline. So you know what
Yeah.
I mean, like that classic shot of some traffic, and you're zooming
Yeah.
in on the name of the town and stuff like that. And instead of paying an actual camera person to go out there and capture this B-roll, I've got a feeling that B-roll is going to be more and more AI generated to where it's commonplace.
But that's when we're going to have to get to the point of what are the rules? You
Hmm.
know, in photography, I mean, food photography for years, we've used mashed potatoes for ice cream, but not if we're selling ice cream. And I think
Ah,
with AI, you're going to have to, if you're trying to tell a story, look, if you're doing news, I have a feeling that just needs to be a real backup, and that
yeah,
needs to be real, but unless they say this is AI generated, because yeah, obviously for many of those news shows, they'll have like actors role playing the scenario that they're trying, the murder mystery, and they'll
right,
use, people in the shadows or whatever and so forth. So as long as it's all well documented what it is in your B-roll. Photo illustration was something, we've had Photoshop for so many years, and eventually it's like, okay, if you're going to manipulate in any way your photo, it needs to be photo illustration, it needs to
mm,
be stated on there, especially if it went into a newspaper or a magazine. And I think,
okay,
AI illustration would be something that I think should be standard. And I think moving forward, these are the kinds of things as creatives we need to start establishing and making the standards, uh, because otherwise everything can just be AI. And if nobody believes anything online, we're
right.
kind of sunk.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm seeing it more and more. I mean,
Yep.
again, I think I mentioned this past week, but with extreme sports and stuff like that, and people doing crazy things, and it's like, in the comments, oh, it's AI, it's AI. Meanwhile, the dude's in the hospital, like, are you kidding me? I just dedicated my life to that triple backflip.
I'm
So,
I'm 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 assuming that the Yetis are AI, but they're pretty
hey,
realistic.
I don't know. Come on, let's put our tinfoil hats back on from last week, and we can go down that Yeti Bigfoot rabbit hole a little bit. But well, if they haven't found Nessie yet, then I don't know what we're gonna do.
Oh, there's next. All right.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Okay,
Well,
well, hey, we are two creative guys talking AI. Been a good show.
I agree. We'll talk to y'all next week. Thanks for listening.